All right, so welcome back to this episode. My name is Paul Erubami as usual, and I'll be the one taking today's lunch hour session on a very interesting topic, key performance indicators driven facility management, how to measure what matters. If you've ever experienced that question of what do you really do as an FM? This is one session you want to be part of. When the organizations seem to be busy moving on in its direction, and the FM seem to be running helter-skelter, trying to get things working, and yet cannot explain or describe what he really contributes to the organization. KPI-driven FM empowers facility managers to track performance, optimize resources, and focus on what truly drives value by measuring what matters most. Before we jump right into it, I'd like to announce to us that the FM Mastercraft Diploma for the 24th batch started as planned on the 12th of May. And admission for this current batch will close by the 30th of May. So by the end of this month, we should have wrapped that up. For those who have not joined yet and still intend to join, you can take advantage of the remaining few days of this month to join. We have the recording of every class in the learning management system, and we have the recording of previous classes also in the portal. And for every session that we run, additional links are added for more content. So it gets richer and richer as you go on. In terms of costs, unfortunately, we could not keep our costs down. But the beauty of what we have done is after the increment, we decided to run this current batch with the old rates. So people are still getting their 200,000 naira off the current rates. So that's a cherry news, and take advantage of that as well. Even with this reduced rate, we still have the installment payment for up to 3 months for those who are interested. Come August, all of this will go back to the rates you see on the website. The website address is Max-Migold.com/promo or facilitymanagementcourses.com/promo. Just go through to the webpage and review the content of the training program. The Mastercraft Diploma has trained more than 1,000 professionals. It's the highest in terms of professionals trained in any facility management program on the African continent, and it's growing. This is just the beginning. We are revamping the program. We are increasing the courses that are taught in it. Just last batch 23, they were the first to have a course on security management and a course on managing estates and communities. So and we're adding more. We're going to have more courses for building information modeling, which is an IoT, Internet of Things, that expands on the technology and FM software courses that we already have. We've also expanded our faculty. We now have one more lawyer and another engineer joined the faculty. They are taking courses that they have more experience in, and our faculty is now about 14 faculty members, which means you can learn from as many professionals in different fields when you come into the FM Mastercraft Diploma. So it's not going to be just my face you'll be seeing. There are so many other faculty members now, and that team is also growing, so which is a good thing. All right, so coming back to the topic of today's conversation, KPI-driven FM, how to measure what matters. Today, we want you to understand the role of key performance indicators in facility management. What are KPIs? Identify critical KPIs aligned with FM goals. It's very easy to relate with, cost efficiency as an FM goal, but then there are so many more KPIs we'll be talking about today. Learn how to design, track, and analyze KPIs effectively. Use KPIs insights to make informed, data-driven decisions. If you track data of performance, it is for you to perform better. It's for you to make decisions that are going to bring better results. Okay, and then be able to improve continuously. So what are key performance indicators? They are measurable values that track progress towards specific goals. Measurable values that track progress towards specific goals. What this means is that when you are working towards anything, you need to measure the things that are leading you towards that goal. And if what you are measuring is strategically connected or aligned with that strategic objective, we say it's a KPI, a key performance indicator. The key word there being key, because there are so many performance indicators, but the key performance indicators are the ones that align with the goal or strategic objective at the highest level. They provide clear benchmarks for evaluating operational efficiency and success. With KPIs, you can identify areas for improvements by picking out areas of performance gaps so you can fill them. KPIs also support data-driven decision-making and strategic planning. If we monitor our KPIs, we'll become more accountable for the success and also the growth that we yearn for. So key performance indicators would not be key if it does not align with organizational strategy. So if I'm trying to measure performance of a cleaning team, for example, there are so many things to measure. I can measure the quantity of chemicals they use in their cleaning. I can measure how much water they consume. I can measure how many hours they work, what the materials and equipment cost them. I can measure how much renewable energy is used. I can measure all kinds of things can be measured, right? But it's only when whatever I'm measuring can translate into organizational goal accomplishment that I can call those ones key. So if I'm measuring a value that adds a strategic value to the organization at the highest level, I call that a key performance indicator. For example, taking that cleaning contract, it is possible to measure all the things that I've listed, but what matters to the organization that I work for, that this cleaning company works for, is that invoices are not carried over from one month to the next. For example, I've been in a situation where profit and loss is declared on a monthly basis. And if you don't make payment for a service delivered during a particular period, it will look as if there was so much profit in that month. And then the month where you now make payment for two of that services in the same month, one was previous month and one for the current month, it looks as if we made a loss that month. So there's no integrity of profitability data, cannot be trended to understand how we are doing as an organization, simply because invoices don't come in on time or somebody doesn't process it on time. Now, it is way more important to the organization that they can present a factual representation of the organization's performance to their shareholders than that cleaning chemical volume or water use, right? So for such an organization, you as an FM might be focusing so much about ensuring that cleaners show up on time, do what they should do at so and so time. But management at the top is only considering from cleaning that either the payments are done in the month they are consumed, or an accrual is done in the financial system that accounts for that money, so it can be blocked out of profit and loss analysis. Another organization might have a very high focus on employee productivity, which requires that workers are always healthy, right? And so if that is the key performance indicator the organization is trying to achieve, then you now need to ensure that from cleaning, you focus on exposure, cross-contamination to disease and other things that can lead to inconveniences, discomforts, like smells, or even outright infection from the workplace. So if I keep counting the preventions that are in place to ensure that nobody is infected in the workplace, that in itself become a key performance indicator, right? So the cleaners are cleaning, they are doing all they know about cleaning. But for me, as an organization, I want to pay attention to something that relates to employee productivity and well-being, right? So if the cleaners and cleaner, they're using the same napkin to clean toilets and clean the office desk, for example, there's a high risk that people will get infected. So from cleaning, just being able to track people's wellness, sick days, and things like infection that comes out of reports like hospital visits. You can imagine how that sounds for a cleaning KPI. But that's what's important to the organization. So when you measure many things. It's important to know baseline things to measure and other things, but ensure that you link facility performance metrics to the broader business outcomes, sustainability, cost savings, workplace productivity, and so on and so forth. Now, if you as an FM come up with what you think are going to be key performance indicators, make sure you run these measures with senior management. Let there be an alignment with management on what constitutes key performance indicators, okay? And that's why it's possible to have different service levels for different services. So I can have service level specifications for cleaners, security, maintenance teams. These performance measures are related to the work being done. How often a breakdown happens might be a maintenance-related performance measure, right? But that breakdown can become an input into a KPI that measures reliability of equipment, right? Because if equipment are reliable, that means our organization will work smoothly and it'll be more productive and more profitable. Costs, for example, when you fix things that are breaking down often compared to doing preventive maintenance, if you see the cost differential, reporting on those can be a key performance indicator, because your higher cost of fixing breakdowns might not only be related to the cost of maintenance, might also be related to the downtime related to that equipment being broken down or not function, which in itself will affect productivity, user well-being and productivity and profitability at the end of the day. So in essence, I decide what the KPI is. I connect that KPI from the FM service to the organization's strategic goals, and then I get management to approve and support those KPIs. KPI should drive behaviors that support strategic priorities. That's the basic idea. What do I want to promote? How do I want to support my organization? That's what I want to bring KPIs that will help me provide to my organization. Streamlining processes to reduce waste and improve productivity will help me improve operational efficiency. So just thinking about all the things that I want to measure as KPIs, if I improve a process to reduce how long it takes, if I improve a process to reduce how much I spend on it, if I improve a process to reduce how many steps it takes to deliver on that process, I can call out I can identify a operational efficiency KPI from that. Even technology is meant to improve efficiency. Technology by themselves don't add any value beyond enhancing what we are already having in place. So what this simply means is that you must already have a process. You must already have the things you are doing. You know how to do it, but you've been doing it manually. Now you want to make it faster and more efficient and cheaper to deliver. That's what technology comes in to do for you. Optimize resource allocation to ensure efficient, effective use of labor, time, and materials. So every time I reduce how long it takes to do something, I can create a KPI out of that. You know, time savings, cost saving, labor hours spent. And then when we do continuous improvement is to help us get it done better and better. Every time there's a new initiative that brings a result of more efficient results, I should pick that up and have a KPI to report in that regard. Measure performance with KPIs to track progress and identify bottlenecks. If you don't, you will not know where there are real issues because you're not really focused on how things get done for the results you're trying to report. You're focusing on how what you do impacts the results that the organization cares for. Okay. So let's take performance or maintenance performance, for example. I'm doing the maintenance. There are certain things I set to achieve. So there's a preventive maintenance schedule. And I'm meticulously following the preventive maintenance schedule, right? A service level agreement item or performance measure will be variance between schedule and actual. When I finally get an item done, or maintenance schedule item that were either done or not done. So I can track that as an SLA requirement. But if I want to elevate that measurement, to take a measurement that will have a direct impact on the organization, I'll track uptime of my equipment. Because uptime and downtime help me to gauge reliability and effectiveness of my maintenance. My maintenance is adding value to the organization by keeping my equipment running consistently. If I'm doing all those activities and I'm scoring very high in my SLA, and my downtime is also very high, and the downtime could be caused by breakdowns, which I have not been able to explain, or it can be caused by me overscheduling preventive maintenance, which means I have to take equipment out of circulation to go and maintain them more frequently than needed. At that point, I'm now becoming a problem to my organization, trying to do my job or doing my job so well that I'm not contributing to the organization's results through uptime and reliability of equipment. Take the time it takes to resolve maintenance requests. If somebody who uses a facility asks for something or something is wrong and it needs it fixed, and the person has to wait several days, calculate the time from when the person had that inconvenience or could not continue his work till the time you come to fix it. That's how much you cost the organization, because if that person's hourly rate is, say, 10,000 naira, for example, multiply that by the number of days or hours that it took for you to come and resolve it, because most people will just wait until you come and deal with issues, right? So response time itself can become a direct connection, can have a direct connection with productivity and profitability of the organization. So what we're trying to do here is, how can we connect the day-to-day things we do to the highest value the organization seeks to achieve from what we do? Take your preventive versus reactive maintenance. You can also track the ratios. How many jobs did you do that you were called up to because something broke, compared to how many jobs did you do that were on the schedule? Now, why do we want to track that? If you do more jobs on a schedule, you are being proactive. There will be less breakdown over time. And if you are tracking the mean time between failure, which is also another important KPI for maintenance, what you observe is, if you are more consistent in fulfilling your preventive maintenance tasks and activities, you will start seeing less and less reactive jobs and breakdown. Considering the fact that every time something breaks down, there is a downtime, there's a value loss, there's a setback, and so on, so many negative things. And then there's a higher cost of returning it back to full functionality. So that's some of the reasons why we should be conscious about these connections between even the basic things we do on a day-to-day basis, like maintenance, and how they contribute to the organization. Let's talk about energy and sustainability. Nowadays, the common way to look at energy is that it costs money, right? So every energy kilowatt hour that is wasted is actually money thrown down the drain. And if you look at the use of water, for example, as well, every bucket loss, of water is money thrown down the drain. So think of it in that respect. If I have metrics for measuring sustainability performance, it directly impacts the organization's bottom line because it will help me curb wastage. It will help me curb losses. So, and whatever is saved through that sustainability initiative adds directly to the profitability of the organization. There's hardly any commercial entity in the world that does not want to track profitability. Hardly any commercial entity in the world that don't want to track commercial viability. And so if sustainability, if my focus or sustainability metrics provides me greenhouse gas emission reduction, carbon footprint reduction, which gives my organization's reputation, helps to boost our credibility with investors and customers on its own, being key performance indicators from the FM work that I do. For example, tracking the amount of renewable energy I use versus fossil fuels that I use, and continuously improving how much more I can use of renewable energy, tracking how much energy I save on an ongoing basis, and continually improving how I catch the waste in energy in my system and reduce them. Our carbon footprint goes down. Our greenhouse gas emissions goes down. We have reputation. We can brag about how sustainable we are as an organization and use that as a selling point to sell to more customers and more investors. At the same time, those same metrics can be used to show that we're a more productive and profitable organization, right? So we can win both ways when we apply sustainability metrics. What about space utilization and cost control metrics? There are so many factors that comes to play when it comes to the cost of real estate. The location of a property, the grade of its construction, the type of tenants it attracts, and the type of industry that those tenants are operating in, all affect the different rates that are paid for real estate. But the bottom line in all of this is that every square meter costs money. How are you utilizing the space that you have? Do you have too much space? Do you know how much a square meter is costing you, both in lease or ownership costs per square meter, per month, per year? Can you account for how each square meter is providing value to the organization? Are there wasted spaces? Are there spaces that are not being used for productive reasons within the organization? Do you have offices, for example, for people who don't even need them, people who don't normally stay in the office? You have an office locked up just because the person has a title and needs to have an office, and so on. We need to be able to analyze the capacity rates to identify underused or overcrowded areas. Some organizations have one section overcrowded, unproductive, very noisy, very rowdy, and then another section, VIP zone, where nothing much is being done in the offices. Being able to come up with ideas, innovations, and systems that helps you optimize layouts will support productivity and reduce space-related expenses to help you consolidate functions or departments to lower facility costs. Sometimes because of one change or the other in the organization, you don't need a certain amount of space anymore. You can't project that we're going to grow back into that space in the nearest future. Why hold on to that cost? Why not return it back to the landlord if it's a lease space, or rent it out if it's an owned space? The whole idea is we must know exactly what our spaces are being used for and what value we are getting from them. Whenever you set key performance indicators, ensure that you work with the acronym SMART. Every KPI must be specific. It defines exactly what the KPI wants to measure and why it matters. And this is something I need to clear. KPIs don't necessarily measure what we are doing. They don't measure how we are doing it. Because they measure the relevance, that is what I call the why. KPIs are things that help us measure the impact of the services that we deliver, right? So if you can't define what that impact is from that service, you cannot pick out a KPI to measure. So that's the first thing, it must be specific. It must be measurable. KPI has to have a way to quantify what you are measuring. By the way, you're not measuring, it's not a measure if it cannot be quantified. So the way KPIs are done, we call them metrics. Metrics are usually counted or measured as a ratio. What this means is I might have the cost of cleaning of my office, but that cost of cleaning is not a KPI. But if I have the square meters that I'm cleaning with this amount, the cost per square meter of cleaning is what I can measure as a KPI. The reason is, if I spend $1 million today, and next time I spend, or someone else is spending the same $1 million, but cleaning a bigger space, it will look as if we are spending $1 million each. That's why 1 million as a measure does not become a metric. It's not something you can use to show progress or decline, right? But if I divide my 1 million by the square meters of the area I've cleaned with it, and I come up with 70 naira per square meter, the next person who is also spending $1 million, once you divide out the square meter of what that person is cleaning with $1 million, you now come up with this cost per square meter. If that person is 50 naira per square meter, they will say that person is performing better than me, who is spending 70 naira per square meter. Whereas if that person is spending 75 or 80 naira per square meter, I would say I'm better than that person in terms of performance, right? Cost performance here. But by the time I said $1 million before, without connecting it to the square meters that is being measured, it sounds as if we are the same. The same thing if the person is spending 10 million, I'm spending 1 million. Sounds like, oh, that person spends too much on cleaning. Why would you spend 10 million on cleaning? But what does it clean with 10 million? How many square meters of space does it clean with 10 million? If you connect those two, then you say you've created a metric. That's where you can draw out a KPI. The same thing goes for energy, right? You buy diesel, you put it in the generator, and the diesel runs a generator for so many hours, right? If you come up with my cost of diesel is this, or the liters of diesel I consume is this, you're not saying anything, you're not communicating anything. I cannot trend that kind of data. But if I know that your diesel of X amount produces Y amount of kilowatt hours of energy, that's the utility that comes out of that diesel. By the time I work out those two into a metric by putting the amount I spend on diesel by the kilowatt hours I get, or I get out of it, I now have a naira per kilowatt hour. So I cannot compare the performance of facility A on diesel generators to facility B using the cost per kilowatt hour. That's why whenever we measure, we ensure that it is quantifiable and can be tracked. Quantifiable and can be tracked simply means that you can trend it. Okay, some things that you measure will need to be going down. For example, the cost per square meter of cleaning. I want to improve it. I want to reduce my cost per square meter of cleaning. I want to maintain my cleaning standard, but I want to reduce my cost per square meter of cleaning, right? If I'm tracking that, I want to be mapping it and plotting it in the graph to see that that cost per square meter is coming down. until I reach a benchmark or standard rate that people can relate to and say, this is best practice. This rate is actually best practice rate for cost per square meter of cleaning. Now, if I have a metric like, number of commendations that customers give me, for the work I do, I'll probably track that against how long. So I get 10 commendations per week, right? So I get 25 commendations per month from an estate that I'm managing. All the customers think I'm doing very well and give me this commendation. I want to keep counting and tracking and making sure these commendations keep going up, right? So I keep looking for more innovative ways to do my job, satisfy more customers, and extract more commendations and referrals, and positive word of mouth comments from my customers. And if I put that on the graph, I expect it to keep going up. So I keep thinking of more ways to please them to get more commendations. So everything you track and measure should have a trending, an expected trend, that if it's not going in that direction, then you ask yourself, okay, so what can I do to make it go in the direction I want? Okay, so if my cost per square meter of cleaning, for example, is not going down, it keeps going up, I start asking myself, what am I spending money on? What's making my square meters is the same? That means I must track my costs so that my cost per square meter can go down. And then every time you set KPIs, make sure that it's achievable. That's the A in SMART. Set realistic targets based on available resources and constraints. Now, let me point out something. Most of you might have seen SMART, SMA, arrow, T. And you will find that while you have achievable as the A, for some books and some authors, you have the arrow as relevant, as realistic. That's a bit of tautology there because realistic is, is the same thing as achievable. So the correct arrow should be relevant in SMART. Relevant is what drives you to the strategic goals, alignment with KPIs and strategic goals of the organization. So relevant is where you really ask yourself, why am I doing this thing, right? I'm trying to do it so well. I'm trying to do it so quickly. I'm trying to achieve so much in it, but why? That's where relevance coming. So when you are dealing with SMART, please do not take the arrow as realistic anymore. Strike that off and replace it with relevance. So it's S for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, arrow for relevant, not realistic. And by all means, that arrow is the most important. This relevant is the most important of the SMART criteria for KPIs. And finally, because that's what drives to why you're even doing what you are doing. And finally, the time bound. Include a clear time frame for achieving the desired outcome. Okay, so we were talking about measure, count, putting reports, metrics, trends, tracking, and so on and so forth. Sometimes it's easy to put it together in a spreadsheet when you're just a small operations. But when the operations become larger, you will now need some software, basically, for tracking and reporting, where each person from across multiple sites can report their numbers into it. And then the system does the analysis and trending. But every report, everything you measure must start from a point we call the baseline, where you are starting from, right? And then you begin to build in the reports on an ongoing basis. That's what creates the trends that you are tracking and watching out for. Collect historical performance data to understand current operating conditions. There is a data that represents what used to be. If you don't compare it with what is now, you don't know whether you are getting better or getting worse. And that's why sometimes you look around yourself and you realize that things have been done in a way that are worse than what they were before. If you think about it, it's because someone did not keep track of the progress that was made in the past. So probably some changes happened and you're now making less progress now with new practices. But because you're able to compare baseline with current, you are now able to see how to retrace your steps. Identify key performance metrics that are relevant to cost, efficiency, sustainability, and service quality. Use industry standards and peer comparisons to set realistic benchmarks. Establish a clear starting point for measuring future improvements. Regularly update the baseline as operation evolves and new data becomes available. Take someone trying to implement a sustainability initiative like recycling. You want to come up with an initiative that will recycle waste and reduce the greenhouse gas emission of the organization of carbon footprint. And the first thing that comes to your mind is how to invest on new bins and new compacting equipment and new shredders and so on and so forth, which costs money, right? But how much waste do you actually generate? Can you, record your baseline waste metrics? Can you compare, do you have data on certain segregation you've done in the past to give you an indication of how much of that waste is paper, how much of that waste is food waste and garden waste, how much of that waste is other types of waste, recyclable waste like plastics and glass? Because if you've not done any of those and you don't have that data, whatever money you are spending in the recycling system or recycling program is wasted money because it's blind spending. So it's important that we establish baseline data and benchmarks. And sometimes you don't even know whether what you are doing is the best. You are doing it too. Your customers like it. But is it the best practice? Is it something that if you present it before your peers in the industry, they'll say, oh, yes, your performance is good. Because if you don't know that, if you don't know whether what is working for you is actually a best practice, you will not try to improve on it. It is only when your customers now go out and see a best practice elsewhere, they come back and suddenly they're no longer happy with what they were happy with before. That's when it dawns on you that you should have been the one doing benchmarking. What does benchmarking mean? It means that you have the metrics that defines the results you are achieving and the baseline numbers that defines the effort. So if I put in this kind of effort, I get this kind of results. I have those records. I go to another facility or another facility manager and say, what kind of results do you get? And what kind of efforts do you put into it? I compare those numbers with mine. If the results are worse than mine, I don't even bother to look at his efforts because I'm already better in terms of results. If the results are better than mine, I want to look exactly into what he's doing differently that I can copy. That's the idea of benchmarking. But I cannot benchmark if I don't even have a documentation of the kind of numbers, baseline numbers, that define the kind of efforts I put in and also the kind of results I get. For example, how many of my customers are satisfied with a certain practice that I implement? If my customers who are happy with that practice are dwindling in percentages, for example, I find out how many of his customers are happy with what he is doing. If I find out that their own satisfaction level is higher, I want to find out what is behind it. That's the whole idea of benchmarking. It is by knowing what is behind it, I can come back and improve the input into my own process and have better output that satisfies my customers. And it's always important to monitor data over time. If something is good and working today, and you are not watching that data, you're not, graphing it, you're not trending it into a report that can be seen. One way I monitor data and performance data, especially when it comes to key performance indicators, is to ensure that all reports follow one spreadsheet format. So if you start working today, your report is in column 1 in this spreadsheet. Every week you come in with your reports, you just go into column 2, column 3, column 4. So even if you work for 10 years, all your reports is still one document. That way I can plot that progress to see whether you are making progress or you are not. All those idea of submitting one report, that's the file for this week's report, and next week's is going to file report, where there's no connection between what's happening this week and what happened last week and what happened last 2 weeks and so on and so forth. What happens is there will be disjointed reporting, and the disjointed reporting helps us to lose sight of where we are coming from. And it does not help us know whether we are doing better or doing worse. It's easy, very easy, to dwindle due to circumstantial factors over time and begin to accept very, suboptimal results because you didn't realize that you used to do better because you've lost sight of all of that. But if all that report is in one continuous spreadsheet, you won't dwindle too far before you begin to look back at that sheet and say, oh, we used to get up to 87%. Why are we not doing 65 and being happy, right? Then that gingers you and the team to start working your way up. So monitor data over time to identify consistent patterns and performance changes. Detect deviations early to address potential issues before they escalate. And this is what I was just talking about. Those deviations can be subtle sometimes, so subtle that you don't even pick them up. Compare actual results against benchmarks to evaluate effectiveness. Use root cause analysis to understand reasons behind significant variances. And this is very important. When you see a major shift, a major change, don't just see it as circumstantial or normal. Document a root cause analysis of it so that you can pick out what is behind it. Then inform decision makers and take corrective actions based on trends that you're observing. Because all of this will be useless if you can't learn something from the data. You can't be acquiring data and just filing them off. If those data cannot, contribute to that decision-making, improvements in what we do, then there's not been any sense in putting the data together. Now, the next level, after you have collated data, you are seeing the trend yourself, is to ensure that others see the data, or others see the report. If any job does not require you to write a report, no matter the level of what you are doing, that job is destroying your future because it cannot help you improve. You must have reports that can be tracked and trended for you yourself to be able to improve. And if a third party, your boss, the organization, some head somewhere also sees that report, even team members look at that report, then it gives them a sense of additional support, right? In the sense that they can correct you, they can give you more resources, they can reprimand you or criticize you or whatever it takes to get you to be better, right? When performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. That's from Thomas Esmonson. He was very clear that it's not enough to do a good job. You must measure your performance. But even that is secondary or the next level. The highest level of doing a good job, measuring your performance, is to have that performance reported so that there will be tracking and trending. And you are holding yourself accountable for required improvement. Others are also holding you accountable for required improvements. Okay. And when you present reports to people at senior management level, try to know how to couch a executive summary. If a report is more than 5 pages, the rest assured that no busy executive will have time to read everything. In fact, even reading that talk from an FM, say you're an FM for a bank, and you write a very lengthy report for the branch manager or for the head of operations in the bank, they are worrying about more important things. But if you can put together an outline of an executive summary in the first page that summarizes the reports into numbers that they can relate with, they can quickly pick out the connection between this report and previous report because you create a linkage in that executive summary. It's also important to use visuals like charts and dashboards to enhance data comprehension. People tend to relate with visuals, a flow chart. It tells a picture. It tells a better story. Highlight key achievement, challenges, and action plans. I like the highlights. One of the key features of my career throughout my days is weekly highlights. Weekly highlights has a structure. It has certain numbers that goes into it. So instead of writing a very lengthy report, if the organization wants to write a lengthy report, it should be there, but ensure that you know how to develop a highlight that identifies metrics that contribute to KPIs. So management can see that straight off and take decisions to know whether you are doing better or not. Ensure transparency by sharing both successes and areas for improvement. We actually take this to another level in Max-Migold. Everybody's report is in the same sheet. So you just see your name. That's where your report. You report into your report. You can click on another person and see what the person is reporting. It's very transparent and open. The reason is that we hold ourselves accountable for success and improvements that needs to be done. Schedule regular updates to maintain engagement and trust. It's very important. From all of this, do a good job, measure your performance, report, track and trend your progress. The whole idea is that you want to continually improve. So you must drive actions and accountability. There has to be clear ownership for whatever the outcome of a report is. If it's my job, I see a gap, I see a flaw, I shouldn't wait for somebody to come and show me what to do or tell me what to do. I see people coming to report and say, oh, this is how far we could go. This is how much we could do. Oh, it fell down this month, with no explanation of how you figure what you have tried to figure out on why the numbers dropped. No idea on how you can do better next month. Oh dear. I get really exhausted if I have to deal with that situation. It's best that you can come up with specific ideas for course correction. If you need support to make those course corrections and move up your game, please make the request, but never ever dump a report that says I failed, I don't know what to do again. You just make yourself look useless, and that's not a professional approach to getting your jobs done. So we adjust strategies based on performance. I see the trend. I can work my way back to see what I have done in the past that led me to this kind of results. I've decided that these results are not the best results. I need to make some adjustments. So I look back at what I did and tell myself, if I could do this more, this less, change this and that, introduce this into what I used to do in the next period, I should be able to get better. So I make some projections on my target goals for actually improving, and I begin to take the actions that will move me in that direction. Okay, modifying. So being rigid will not help. If you are the type that this is what we have been doing, and as such, we just keep doing it, even when the results are becoming less and less optimal, or you are providing customers a certain kind of service, and the customers have gone on summer holiday and come back and realize that FM is better than this. What you are doing is really rubbish work. And their tastes have changed, their process has changed. You cannot say, oh, this is how we have been doing it. This is how you have been liking it. Therefore, we must continue doing it. You must be flexible to make the right modifications to lead to better results. Because at the end of the day, your eye must always be on the ultimate results, which is the goals or strategic objective of the organization. So we must continuously monitor outcomes to ensure we can adjust. And then make it a habit to continually improve. Performance-driven FM culture means that we're always setting goals, always raising the bar 1 inch at a time. If you meet this goal, you set a new goal to do something better, okay? And if you're going to create competition in the team, let the competition be an inspiring one that makes people want to do better and better. There are some teams where if one person is doing very well, the numbers are showing it. It will look as if there's going to be a gang up against that person to pull the person down to an average low, right? That is the culture we must fight against, we must kill in the organization. We must all strive to help the organization succeed. When organizations fail, it is not the organization itself per se that failed. It's the people that are in the organization that failed. And that could be people at any level. If the organization succeeds and excels and achieves its goal and become what it needs to be, it is the excellence of the people in the team that makes it, right? So if one person is trying to, instead of trying to pull that person down, let everyone else find ways to encourage accountability through ownership of tasks and become better and better at what we do. Bottom line in all this is that we must make continuous learning and improvement based on feedback, the culture in the organization. Everyone must not see a correction as witch hunt or negative criticism, but see it as an opportunity to grow and do better. And one final thought I want to leave with you. If you do well, you perform well, you track your progress, and you do better and better, your organization will benefit from it today, but you will benefit from it for life. So for all those who say, I will not be better because I'm being used, for example, or they are extracting too much from me, therefore I will not learn more, I will not do any extra, you are killing your future. The organization might still be there, might not benefit from you that moment, but in time to come, you will see that you've mortgaged your progress in life. So always have a selfish mindset towards personal improvement and professional development in the workplace, because the benefit from the organization from your good today is only temporary. It is you that will develop a habit and a lifestyle of excellence that will live with you, and only God knows how far that will take you. So that's our session for today. I hope you've all picked a few notes. A performance-driven culture, boosts efficiency, quality, and accountability. Clear goals and transparent data empower teams to excel. Regular feedback and recognition sustains motivation and engagement. Collaborative efforts ensure continuous improvement and innovation. And leadership commitment is key to embedding lasting cultural change in the organization. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if you have a question. If you are in our Max-Migold Facility Management Training WhatsApp platform, you can also drop your questions there. I know quite a few of us are on the YouTube page, LinkedIn page. You can drop your questions there. We are very, very conversational in all our platforms, and we'll answer all your questions. Don't forget that FMMC 24 has started. It is the last time the rates that you see on the website, maxmigold.com/promo, will be valid, for a 200,000 naira discount, which is running till the end of this month. After this, the reality will set in. And thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone, for sparing the time to join me in this Thursday's lunch hour. We'll keep it going for as long as you keep coming to enjoy these sessions. Have a good afternoon and the rest of the week. Bye-bye.